Joey, it is time for What's in the Bottle once again. What are we talking about today?
Magnesium.
Magnesium. We love magnesium in my house. So I don't need to pay attention to any of this because I actually know all about it already. So
you can talk actually then. Go ahead.
No, I'm not.
I'll host.
That is not happening. Never, ever, ever. Nobody wants to hear my opinions. Okay, so tell me about magnesium. We've got a couple of different versions, right?
Yes. Yeah, so we'll kind of start with the basics of what does magnesium do in the body. Mm-hmm. Magnesium is needed for more than 300 biochemical reactions in the body.
Oh, that's all.
Helps to maintain normal nerve and muscle functioning, support a healthy immune system, even has effect on the rhythm of the heart, on the heartbeat, and helps bones as well. We always associate calcium. That's definitely the main driver, but magnesium is a significant component as well. Also helps adjust and regulate blood glucose levels, and it's involved in energy production. It's involved in 80% of the body's metabolic reactions. So if you are experiencing low magnesium, what may be some of the manifestations of that?
Yep.
Muscle spasms and tightness, muscle weakness, tremors, as well as things like menstrual cramps, constipation, headaches, fatigue, palpitations, as well as psychologically, you could be having some sleep disturbances, low mood, anxiety, and irritability. Over time, if you're deficient consistently, more in a chronic state, there is association with type 2 diabetes, severe PMS, arrhythmias, high blood pressure, and then again, more from the psychological end, depressive disorders, anxiety disorders, ADHD.
Wow.
So there's acute links as well as chronic links.
Really, really important mineral, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I can eat this, right? This is something I can eat in food.
Yes. And I think this one's, when you get into herbs, you know, things can get a little bit more, oh, what does this do? But when you're talking about something as basic as magnesium, and rightfully so, mine kind of goes to, well, I can get that from my diet.
Yeah.
And you can, but there are a few layers and issues with it. So first of all, the sources: nuts and seeds, green leafy vegetables, and whole grains. I emphasize whole. So if those are a heavy part of your diet, you're way ahead of the game. If you're not, there's not a ton else out there that's really going to give you anything unless it's fortified.
Got it.
So how much of these foods are you really eating, A? And then B, the food itself. So there was a 2016 study done just in wheat comparing magnesium levels. So in 1968, they have baseline magnesium levels. They reevaluated them in 2015, just from what's currently done in the same area, things like that. They found that magnesium content was 19.6% lower.
Whoa.
That was one very large study. Some studies, smaller studies, go up to 80% since the 1950s, an 80% decrease. You say, why? It has to do, not surprisingly, with mass production, but more specifically, use of fertilizers. So the fertilizers themselves. So those green leafy vegetables, those nuts, those seeds, those whole grains, everything I just mentioned is affected by our farming practices, agricultural practices, and the fertilizers we use. So right there.
So get it in your diet, but also you're going to have to eat potentially 5 times as much of this stuff as you used to get the same amount.
In the 1950s, your bar to clear how much, the magnesium amount that you need, your intake is now much higher.
Got it. Okay.
So there's also significant decrease in cooking.
Okay.
As well as, and that's why I emphasized whole grains, 80 to 95%, depending on the grain itself, is lost when it's processed into a simple grain, or when it's not the whole grain, when you remove the germ.
Wow.
So that's, again, why I keep emphasizing the word whole. And also, very importantly, contributing to magnesium deficiency are medications, things that are pretty difficult variables to change. Commonly used medications: metformin, antibiotics, certain blood pressure medications like calcium channel blockers, diltiazem, and amlodipine, commonly used. Diuretics, Lasix, hydrochlorothiazide, proton pump inhibitors. They're a very specific type of antacids: Prilosec, Protonix, omeprazole. All of those things I just named, these are not some obscure type. These are very commonly used medications. So we've got the dietary concerns, the farming concerns. Now you're on some of these meds. It's the bar is now higher. It's a higher bar to clear because you may be intaking the proper amount of magnesium, but there's not evaluation going on of what you're actually absorbing. All those medications are blocking the absorption of magnesium that you are intaking. High stress levels contribute as well.
Wow.
Also, anything with diuretic activity, alcohol, caffeine.
Okay, so it's hard to get enough from our diets, and even if you get enough, it's hard to keep enough within your body.
Yes.
So that makes supplementation a really good option.
It does. Yeah, absolutely. Now, in terms of choosing one, I broke it down into 3 separate categories. First is just basic magnesium. Okay, so first of all, magnesium, just important to remember because we're going to talk about salt forms, and I think that can get a little, I don't want to turn this into a science discussion, but just the basics. So magnesium itself is an element. It's on the periodic table.
Yep.
In its pure form, it's a gray metal. Okay. So for the body to access magnesium, for a plant to contain magnesium, it's got to be bound to something. Okay. When it's bound to something, it's called a salt. So we think of salt, we think of table salt.
Yeah.
And salt is really just a broad term. So table salt is sodium chloride. It's a positive molecule and a negative molecule make a neutral. That's how the body can utilize it, and then it dissolves, etc. So that's an important thing, and that's why you can't. Well, I just want to take magnesium. Why does it have to have that glycinate or what that oxide? All that can be a little confusing. It must be bound because again, we're talking about a basic element. It must be bound and form a salt in order to be carried, absorbed, stored by the body.
Otherwise, your body would just process it straight out.
Yeah, and really, it would be a hunk of metal. I mean, there would be...
Fair enough.
Yes.
Don't eat metal.
That's why I started there, as odd as it is. That's to at least just emphasize the importance and the necessity, more appropriately, of why it is bound to something.
Okay.
So the most basic supplements that you're going to see on a pharmacy shelf, magnesium oxide, magnesium citrate. This is not to say that, I don't want to get into bad and good. I'm just explaining the differences and leave it there. But magnesium oxide studies have shown that it's less absorbed in the gut than forms like aspartate, citrate, lactate, and chloride. So they can tell from the studies, they look at blood levels, and they can tell it's lower. It does not dissolve well. So the body cannot separate the magnesium from the oxide, okay? Magnesium citrate's the other big one that you'll see. That's used in its standalone form as a laxative. So that's not your best bet in terms of a standalone product. So those are the basics and the issues with those. There are higher quality. We get a lot of people asking, I just want magnesium glycinate. I just want magnesium malate. Those are good supplements. They are well absorbed. Again, documented to absorb better than oxide citrate forms with less GI side effects. Okay. So now you say, well, what's best? Best is not anything different than what I just named. Essentially, it's the combination.
Okay. All right.
Okay. And again, I think we try to be as open about supplements as we can. This is not the be all end all combination. It doesn't have all the ones I just named. Those are good ones too. The aspartate, etc. It's an excellent combination, the best one we know of and can access, and it's a great option for you. And here's why. So it contains citrate, malate, lysine, and glycinate. So I just talked about citrate and some issues there. Laxative, right? Well, in low doses, it's highly ionic. Your body can absorb it, separate the magnesium for transport. So in lower doses, it is an excellent form and a good part of a combination. What the product actually does when it's alone, when it's just mag citrate, the product you'd see on the shelf, high dose. You basically overwhelm the body's ability to absorb it, utilize the side effect, because in this case, your body clears it via the colon and causes bowel movements. So you're literally using the side effect of magnesium citrate and what's technically a mega dose, can't absorb it. This is how the body does it. Oh, let's use that side effect as a over-the-counter drug.
Got it.
But in combination, in low dose, it's an effective, unique part of the combo.
Got it.
So what else? Malate. It's a Krebs cycle intermediate. Krebs cycle is just involved in cellular energy production, okay? It's the same form that's found in foods. It's highly absorbed. It dissolves well, okay? So it's a great option. It's malic acid is where the malate comes from. That's when malate is alone, it's malic acid. The other two are amino acids,
Okay.
lysine and glycine. You'll see them on the bottle as lysinate and glycinate. Again, just different pathways for the body to absorb. So what's critical, like I talked about, kind of the overloading of we'll call it the citrate pathway and the way your body would process magnesium citrate when it's in the gut. When you have lower doses of all of these different forms, the body is absorbing them in all different ways. The way that the body absorbs citrate is very different from the way it absorbs the amino acid, lysine and glycine forms, which is different than the Krebs cycle malate form. So you're not maximizing and overloading any of those pathways. Okay, your body can utilize all those different pathways to make sure that the magnesium you're intaking is actually absorbed.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and the other thing, it limits side effects. So any individual, specifically glycinate, can cause some abdominal pain and some nausea. So yes, that's a very good form. It's in our product. But when you take it alone to get enough magnesium, you've got to take a higher dose. Your likelihood of the side effects goes up. So and also the way your body processes and absorbs, it may be a little more efficient at absorbing one of those pathways or the other. So when you use the combination, that's what's really critical here. All of those individual components are not unique. It's the combination.
Got it. That's cool. Okay. What forms do we have? I know we've got a couple of different versions. We've got like a pill form and a powder, correct?
Yeah, still would primarily recommend the pill form because it has all of those combinations.
Okay.
The powder is only one form. That's essentially more of a product concern and a practical concern that for whatever reason you want to, take it in a liquid form. Mm-hmm. Not all of them dissolve as well.
Okay.
So that it's not that we didn't want them in the powder, we would prefer them in the powder. It's a literal product dissolving issue.
Okay, so the product, the powder one literally doesn't have all of these. It's not a combo product like the others.
Correct.
The Mag Essentials is the combination?
Absolutely, yes. Now, if you open that one up and try to dissolve it, that's where you have the issues. So that's why it's in a capsule and not available in the other form. So that's still absolutely the way to go.
Got it. Okay. What else do we need to know? Anything else?
I don't think.
What's a standard dosage for somebody looking to start taking magnesium?
Yeah. So in terms of taking it, you still want to be aware of, namely the one side effect that I mentioned of the citrate, especially if your body's kind of used to lower magnesium intake, you can overwhelm a pathway potentially. So I would just start with one capsule. And from there, after a couple days, go up to 2. Ideally with something like magnesium and often supplements in general, you want to split the dose. So like 1 twice a day. The other thing we see very often is magnesium really is known as a calming nutrient to the body, both to the brain and to mood, but also to the heart rhythm, to blood pressure. It helps to relax the blood vessels. So if you can take that at night, split it up, take it at night, it can help with any potential sleep concerns that you may have.
Very cool.
At night, you can probably go up to 3 a day, 1 in the morning, 2 in the evening. If night is your main concern, you're really just trying to get it on board for sleep without having to, take a medication or overdo the melatonin, whatever the case may be. You can move those to nighttime and get the dose that way.
Love it. Very cool. Excellent. I'm so glad we do these. I learned so much. Thank you.